Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Your declaration of an emergency on the southern border was clearly authorized under the law and consistent with past precedent. As you said, the National Emergencies Act directly authorizes the president, gives broad discretionary authority to the president to identify and respond to emergent circumstances that require a decisive response. And the humanitarian and security crisis we have on the border right now is exactly the kind of emergency that presidents are permitted to address under the National Emergencies Act. As you alluded to yourself, in the past 40 years, there have been 59 emergencies declared, and many of these have dealt with political conditions in countries like Burundi, Sierra Leone, Belarus. The crisis that we're dealing with today is right on our doorstep.
After 6 weeks of this Attorney General, Bill Barr, I think you could already feel the impact. Boom, bam, douche. So today was the day that the House was supposed to vote to overturn the president's usurpation of the Constitution by taking unto himself the ability to reprogram money that Congress appropriated to the military, to military construction projects like skills and housing repairs at Camp Lejeune and water decontamination efforts at Camp Lejeune and other various bases. And the House voted today. They needed 288 votes to have the two-thirds vote necessary in the House to override the president's veto, and they didn't have that. They didn't have that. They got 248 votes. No Democrats, peeled off. They all voted together. It looks like you got 13 House Republicans voting with the Democrats to preserve and uphold the Constitution of the United States, which clearly puts the legislature as the first branch of government, giving it the power of the purse, and not the president of the United States the power of the purse or the power to declare war or any other really important powers, right? And so Bill Barr is there standing over the president. I mean, everybody's all huddled around the president today. No, you're allowed to steal the money. You're allowed to reprogram the money. You're allowed to take the money. Don't you worry. I got 6 weeks into Bill Barr, and already we got a conclusion from a report whose pages, the number of pages, we don't even know, where obviously we experienced the president asking Russia to help him win this election. We saw that. We saw it. We know that the Trump campaign met with Russians. We know that happened. We saw the emails that Junior actually, wrote and was writing back and forth to Rob Goldstone, where Rob Goldstone is assuring Donald Trump Jr. that the Russian government was fully backing, his father for president and wanted to help him. And Trump's answer, Junior's answer was, if it is what you say it is, I love it. We didn't make that up, did we? But Bill Barr decided that he was going to take God knows how many pages of underlying documents and grand jury testimony and, an executive summary and then a laying out of the facts and what Mueller was thinking and what the actions were that he was considering might constitute obstruction of justice, and he distilled it down to 4 pages where he takes Mueller's sentences, chops them up into little segments, quotes them, halfway through or 3/4. We don't know because it's not a full sentence, and then says, there's nothing to see here, move along. And now the president is looking for revenge. He wants to weaponize this report. In fact, last night he tweeted out a list of people, a list of sitting Congress members, legal scholars, former attorney generals, former CIA officials, former heads of CIA, former heads of DI, all as being people that the media should not book. Really, keep them out of the heads of the American people. We don't want to hear from them because they are evil. They have done bad things. They have done, evil and treasonous things.
It's lasted a long time. We're glad it's over. It's 100% the way it should have been. I wish it could have gone a lot sooner, a lot quicker. There are a lot of people out there that have done some very, very evil things, very bad things. I would say treasonous things against our country.
Oh, my God.
And hopefully that people that have done such harm to our country, we've gone through a period of really bad things happening. Those people will certainly be looked at. I've been looking at them for a long time, and I'm saying, why haven't they been looked at? They lied to Congress.
Oh, my God.
Many of them, you know who they are. They've done so many evil things.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. So he tweeted out a list of all the evil people last night and sent a memo from his communications crew, sent a memo to all the producers in radio and television last night, telling us not to book these people because they're evil, they're liars. Every single one of those people have a defamation case at this point. I mean, this is just amazing. But that said, so today was the day they were going to try and uphold the Constitution in the House of Representatives. And as I mentioned, the vote just happened and it failed. And so the president's emergency powers remain with the president. And it's really disgusting because the money, already $1 billion of the military construction budget, has been siphoned off and given to an effort to build a stupid fence in El Paso and in Yuma, Arizona, a stupid 18-foot fence. And here you have Camp Lejeune they're still dealing with hurricane damage because they're in North Carolina. They're still dealing with hurricane damage. And apparently they have a massive epidemic of contaminated water. And the money has been taken from them. The Senate Armed Services Committee is the Democrats on the Senate Armed Services Committee are livid. The president plans to take $12.9 billion in all from all 50 states, more than 24 countries where our troops are stationed, and it will affect things like schools and fire stations for military bases and training complexes, 3.6 billion in military construction funding. Camp Lejeune's new water treatment plant is now on hold. This is just, it's insane. And the members of the military and their families are all going to pay the price. You know, we played for you that clip of the military wives testifying in front of Congress where no one bothered to even show up. Okay, but they were saying they had termites falling from the light fixtures and that the walls in the laundry room where the kids go to play with their toys was full of black mold, and that the electric, was catching fire and all that. It's just so unbelievable. So you have people at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. That's the 101st Airborne. Okay, that is a legendary division of the Army. It just, whenever somebody says, so the people who have served, our conversations go a little deeper than thanks for your service. You know what I mean? We go, oh, yeah, what did you do? What was your job? Where were you stationed? If somebody tells you they're 101st Airborne, as somebody who ever served in any capacity, you all go, wow, really? Well, that base has such decrepit housing. It's like a throwback to the 1950s. The structures at Fort Campbell, home to the 101st Airborne, where they live, are slowly degrading. I mean, there's like walls are crumbling and electricity is catching fire. And they were slated to get $63 million for a middle school for their kids. That's not going to happen now. They're going to send their kids. Trump decided that their kids should go to an aging high school instead. This is a sick man, and he is punishing everybody. You remember when Tom Tillis from North Carolina, where Camp Lejeune is, remember when Tom Tillis from North Carolina said he was going to vote against the emergency declaration last month, and then all of a sudden, just before the vote, he changed his mind? Well, I hope you're proud of yourself, because you have to run for re-election in 2020, and I just hope the military members in Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune and Cherry Hill and all the great places over there remember that Tom Tillis is allowing for the money that they need for their housing, for their kids, for their fire stations, for their schools, for their decrepit electrical systems and all that stuff. All those military projects are now not going to happen because Donald Trump stole your money to build a stupid fence. And every single Democrat in the House tried to stop it. 13 House members tried to stop, 13 GOP House members joined with every Democrat in the House to try and stop it, but we couldn't stop it. We couldn't override his veto, and we didn't really have a prayer in the Senate anyway, so nobody expected that we could override his veto in the end. But, I mean, this is just so sick. And then, last night I'm reading through, all of this revenge stuff that's going on. Check my Twitter feed. I don't know if you could put the pieces of the puzzle together, but in 240 characters, it's very hard to, connect the puzzle pieces, but they're all pieces of a puzzle. So you've got lots of stuff going on now. You've got everyone around Michael Cohen, anybody that had anything to do with Stormy Daniels, anybody that had anything to do with Michael Cohen, the Moscow Tower Project, they're all being punished in courts. I mean, it's so freaking twisted what's going on. You got Felix Sater is suddenly the victim of a massive lawsuit for a bank in Kazakhstan is now suing Felix Sater. Listen, I find this just so crazy. A bank in Kazakhstan decided that they had $4 billion go missing 10 years ago. And they paid, swear to God, they paid Michael Cohen $1.8 million after Trump won the election to go find whoever stole that money 10 years ago. They also paid Felix Sater to help them find who stole that money all those years ago. Well, now all of a sudden they're turning around and they're suing Felix Sater, saying that Felix Sater stole the money. And that the money ended up in Trump Tower Soho units, benefiting Donald Trump and Felix Sater. Now, the law firm behind all this, the lawyer, the lead attorney for the Bank of Kazakhstan, is David Boies' law firm, Boies, Schiller, and Flexner. What's interesting is Boies also seems to be the law firm that got Michael Cohen paid by BTA Bank and got Felix Sater paid by BTA Bank. And now that same law firm has turned around and they're suing Felix Sater and they're moving against Michael Cohen too. I mean, BTA entered into a contract with Michael Cohen in 2017 after Trump became president. And Matthew Schwartz, the same lawyer that's quoted in the Felix Sater story, is the lead attorney working at Boies, David Boies' law firm. And he said Cohen was hired as a consultant because he was rumored to have the best legal resources and could assemble a winning team. That BTA quickly tore up its agreement. It was a 12-month contract worth $1.8 million. Cohen got $300,000, according to somebody familiar with the matter. I don't know if it's the same lawyer. But Matthew Schwartz of Boies, Schiller, Flexner, LLP in New York confirmed the payments from BTA after Cohen revealed the transactions for the first time in his testimony before the House Oversight Committee. Before that, nobody said anything about it. Now, all of a sudden, Michael Cohen's in big trouble. Now, all of a sudden, there's this story last night that, Felix Sater is supposed to testify on Wednesday, tomorrow. Well, guess what? Canceled, or at least postponed, because he was served a massive lawsuit yesterday in federal court in New York. The city of Almaty, Kazakhstan's largest city, and BTA Bank, once the country's largest financial institution, are alleging that Sater, the former Trump Organization executive Daniel Ridloff, and certain entities controlled by them participated in an international criminal conspiracy to launder and conceal at least $440 million stolen from the bank. Matthew Schwartz, a former federal prosecutor now with Bose Schiller Flexner, said. Also, it seems like the boys' law firm is the law firm that notified the feds about Michael Avenatti.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
I'm going to make a brief statement, but I will not be accepting any questions. First of all, I want to thank the federal agents for their professionalism and courtesy today. They were outstanding throughout the process, and I wish to thank them for everything they did today in connection with this matter. As all of you know, for the entirety of my career, I have fought against the powerful people and powerful corporations. I will never stop fighting that good fight. I am highly confident that when all of the evidence is laid bare in connection with these cases, when it is all known, when due process occurs, that I will be fully exonerated and justice will be done. Thank you.
Everybody needs to be exonerated. This is the new word, exonerated. Everybody wants to be exonerated. Jesse Smollett was, exonerated today. Not really. They just dropped all the charges, but they said it has absolutely nothing to do with what he did. I don't understand it. I honestly don't. But that's what happened. They had a 5-minute closed hearing. The records are sealed. And all of a sudden, Jesse Smollett, who was charged with 16 counts, walked out of court, with no counts. Something strange is going on in Chicago, that's for sure. But I got to tell you that this really strange revenge thing that Donald Trump's got going on is already happening. And so last night I was reading through what happened to Avenatti because I find it just fascinating, and I don't know what to make of it yet. But I was reading through the complaint. I was reading through, and then all of a sudden, I see a law firm that, was reached out to by Nike. You know what Michael Avenatti is accused of in New York, right? Michael Avenatti was he was in what he calls settlement negotiations with Nike because a high school coach named Gary Franklin Sr. of the California Supreme in Los Angeles, a high school club team, right? Went to Avenatti, and he said that he had evidence that Nike employees were funneling money to recruits in high school to get them to play for Nike-sponsored teams in violation of NCAA rules. Okay? And so, and this has happened before. It happened with Adidas. They got 3 convictions in the Adidas case. Same thing. Evidence of, paying high school kids and their families in order to get them to attend colleges to play basketball for, schools that are sponsored by Adidas. Okay, same thing. And these big sports companies, Under Armour, Adidas, Nike, they throw these lavish player parties for the players. They try to recruit them. And it's illegal to pay them, right? It is, because it's still plantation mentality. I don't know why it's illegal, but it's against NCAA rules. Okay. That being said, Michael Avenatti said that a coach had come to him, a high school coach had come to him and said that he had evidence that Nike was funneling money to high school kids to go play NCAA basketball for colleges sponsored by Nike. And so Avenatti's on the phone and he's threatening Nike to release this evidence. Okay, and that it would damage Nike's reputation and that their market cap would be decimated, basically, and that he wanted $1.5 million for his client, which was this high school basketball coach. And he also wanted Nike to hire him and his co-conspirator, who we now know is Mark Geragos. Mark Geragos.
Oh, my God.
That is Mark Geragos. I've had that forever. Okay. But Avenatti and Mark Geragos were together on this. And I don't know why Geragos hasn't been arrested if there's a crime here. But seems like when Nike got off that phone call, they didn't like the way the conversation was going. And they wanted something done. And they reached out to David Boy's law firm. David Boy's law firm, where the suit against Felix Sater was filed yesterday with them as the lead attorneys against Sater. Now, Sater was also paid $100,000 a month by BTA Bank, this Kazakhstan bank. Right? So they hired Michael Cohen and they hired Felix Sater for real money. $100,000 a month is real money. They hired Michael Cohen for $1.8 million to go figure out where the money went from their bank that they believe was stolen from them 10 years ago. They hired these two guys. And these two guys are now facing some sort of legal jeopardy by Boy's law firm, David Boy's law firm. And Michael Avenatti as well. Nike called David Boy's law firm, and David Boy's law firm called the feds. Now, is this revenge? I don't know. I don't know what it is. I have no earthly idea what this is. It's just creepy that when you start reading it, you keep seeing David Boy's law firm. You keep seeing the Boy's law firm, Boy's law firm, Boy's law firm, you know? I mean, it's just unbelievable. And I don't know what to make of it except to say that's a common denominator throughout all these stories. And the other common denominator throughout all these stories is Michael Cohen. Felix Sater, Michael Cohen together on the Moscow Trump Tower deal. Felix Sater supposed to testify tomorrow in front of the House. All of a sudden that's postponed, not going to happen. Michael Cohen testified in front of the House. You know what he said about Donald Trump. He's a con man. He's this, he's that, right? All this stuff, and that he inflated his assets for the purpose of getting loans and deflated his assets for the purpose of that, right? All this stuff. And then all of a sudden you have this law firm that's going after people, but the common denominator is the law firm and the people are all connected. Michael Cohen is connected to Michael Avenatti through the Stormy Daniels payments. I don't know if this is, orchestrated, or this is just, these are the people that Trump surrounds himself with, and they're all disgusting. I have no earthly idea what to make of any of it. None of it's been adjudicated. All this is a lawsuit filed against Felix Sater and canceled testimony by Felix Sater. He was supposed to go tomorrow. He was supposed to give his testimony. We were going to work tomorrow. We were supposed to be installing all this new equipment Monday. But Friday, the Mueller report got dropped, and we didn't know if we were going to get the report or not get the report. And all we ended up with was the Barr report, a 4-page summary, in his opinion, a guy who swears that this is a guy who believes in a unitary executive. That's why we opened with Bill Barr telling the president he's got the right to usurp the power of the purse from Congress. It's guys like this that tell the president he doesn't have to go to Congress and get a declaration of war anymore. It's guys like this that tell the president that he can take the money that Congress appropriated for the military and spend it any way he wants. It's guys like this that believe in a unitary executive who is above the law that are the most trouble for this country, that cause the most death, that cause the most confusion. And Bill Barr, during his confirmation hearing, clearly said it is not anything he believes that a sitting president could be indicted.
For 40 years, the position of the executive branch has been you can't indict a sitting president.
Well, it's the tradition based on a couple of OLC opinions, but now it is potentially an imminent, indeed immediate possibility, and I'm asking you for your opinion now, if possible, but if not now, perhaps at some point.
Are you asking me if I would change that policy?
I'm asking you what your view is right now.
I actually haven't read those opinions in a long time.
Oh my God.
But I see no reason to change them.
Unitary executive guy, neocon. Seriously, dude, pay attention. Congress doesn't matter at all. Congress is a useless appendage. The president is an autocrat. The president can do whatever he wants. The president is above the law. The president answers for nothing. So here's a question for you, Bill Barr. This is what I would have asked him. Why does the president even bother to take an oath? He would probably say he doesn't need to. Protect and defend the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to faithfully execute all the laws. It's becoming a joke now. But that's Bill Barr. That is who he is. And he put out this 4-page thing that is his opinion of what God knows how many pages actually lay out. So this is what we have. This is what we're stuck with, okay? So I said, all right, we'll work Monday because I didn't know what we were going to get on Monday. So we worked Monday and we're working today. And then we were going to work tomorrow because Felix Sater was going to testify. And I was going to run it for you. But he's not testifying tomorrow. So I just, as a little bit of housekeeping, we're going to install this equipment tomorrow. We're going to get this done. Tomorrow, we're going to get the new system. It's called a TriCaster. And I told you, we had a pre-wire. We did that. We had a switch over to fiber optic. We did that. And now we're going to set up this system with the new camera that, promises to take multiple shots. I mean, Brett is learning. He's playing with it, and he knows, sort of kind of what it can do. But it's going to be a learning curve. Everybody's going to be calling up going, what is that? And what is it? I don't care. We're going to do it. So then that'll happen. And then we'll be back on the air next week. And then the week after that is when we do the lighting. And then we're going to get something behind me that should be pretty awesome, I think. So that this whole thing looks a little bit better for everybody, right? So that's our schedule. But I was going to work tomorrow because I thought, he was going to testify. He's not testifying now because he got slapped with a lawsuit. And the lawsuit was written by David Boy's law firm. This guy, I guess his name is Matt Schwartz. Nothing against you, Matt Schwartz. I have no idea what's going on. All I could tell you is all this stuff, Avenatti's stuff is coming from Boy's law firm. Cohen's stuff is coming from Boy's law firm. He got paid by BTA Bank, Cohen did. Boy's law firm was responsible for ripping up that contract. And Felix Sater also got a contract through that law firm, I believe, for $100,000. And now they're turning around and they're punishing these guys. So I was tweeting out this stuff last night, and one of the people follows me. She said to me, so Randi, what's next? Who's next? And I said, the American people. And I swear to God, in 2.5 seconds after I told her that, all of a sudden the news comes out that the Trump administration is filing, the Department of Justice, Bill Barr, is changing the Trump Justice Department's position on the Affordable Care Act. Prior to Bill Barr, the position of the Trump administration on the Affordable Care Act was, when they passed their tax plan, okay, this horrible tax cut for the wealthy, 2017, the tax cut, included in it that people who were going without health care, you had to pay the fine for going without health care to fund the people who were paying for health care, to get health care. And in his tax bill, he took away the obligation for people to have health care, the mandate. And so they then went back to court and they asked the court if the entire health care plan can stand without the mandate, without the individual mandate. And courts had said, the Supreme Court twice said, yeah, it can. The Trump administration came and said, well, how about we get rid of all the regulations, meaning pre-existing conditions. Remember that? We had this whole, and that's why the House Democrats won so big, because everybody was telling you that the Trump administration was doing away with all the regulations that protect people in the ACA, and that's true. So they were trying to get rid of the individual mandate. They did get rid of the individual. They were trying to get rid of community rating. What is that? That means pre-existing people with pre-existing conditions, which is 33 million Americans, can't be charged more than people without them. That you can't charge people more because they're older. That you can't charge women more because they get pregnant. That children up to the age of 26 can stay on their parents' health insurance plans. All these things that Obamacare did for us, they wanted to take out of the ACA. Well, a judge in Texas decided he would go even further, and he would say, now that you don't have the individual mandate, the whole thing is unconstitutional. The whole thing has to go. And that's how a judge in Texas ruled. So now that case is in front of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans. And the Fifth Circuit was going to hear an argument by our Department of Justice, which was going to ask only that the consumer protections are done away with. And now the Fifth Circuit hears from the Department of Justice, hears from Bill Barr last night, and Bill Barr says, you know what, the hell with it. Let's nullify the entire Affordable Care Act. We're changing our position. Not only do we want the consumer protections removed, meaning pre-existing conditions, women being charged more, kids 26 can stay on their parents, elderly, we want the whole thing done away with. You know, if they got rid of the whole thing, you know what that means? That means the donut hole protection in Medicare goes away. Seniors, would pay more for their prescription drugs than they already do. The Medicaid expansion in the states that expanded it, which were mostly Democratic governors, would also be undone. And all the people, like 1.8 million people, for instance, in Kentucky, they'd all lose their Medicaid coverage. People who are in rehab that are using Medicaid coverage, they'd lose those payments. They would lose their ability to stay in rehab. This is so. Right after she said, "Well, who's going to be next? I mean, who else is he going to exact revenge on? Because he'd already come out against the media. These lawsuits went out. Now it's us."
Connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. The Justice Department rocked the healthcare world with a legal filing on Obamacare in Louisiana. In a simple one-page letter, the Trump administration essentially asked the Fifth Circuit to invalidate the entire Affordable Care Act. Now, just a short time ago, the president spoke to reporters at the Capitol and was asked about the challenge. Here's what he said.
Oh, my God.
Let me just tell you exactly what my message is. The Republican Party will soon be known as the party of health care. You watch.
But the administration's basis for challenging the law is a December ruling by a Texas judge that the law's individual mandate couldn't be sustained in the face of changes to the tax law after the 2017 Republican tax cut bill, and ruled the remainder of the Affordable Care Act as void. Let me take a look at the Affordable Care Act and just who uses it before we get into this a little more. Government numbers show that about 9.2 million people signed up for health insurance through the federal marketplace. Now, this doesn't include the 3 million other enrollees who signed up on state-based exchanges not backed by the federal government. For now, we're just going to look at these 9.2 million people. Adults 26 to 44 and 45 to 64 make up the overwhelming majority. About 80% of those enrolled in 2018. They're majority white, making up about 50% of enrollees. The next biggest groups are Hispanic and African American at 12% and 7% each. And most enrollees live outside of rural areas, according to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. This next part is particularly important. A full 88% of enrollees make 1 to 4 times the federal poverty level. That's $48,560 for an individual. So they make somewhere between 1 and 4 times that amount. All of the government data giving us a look at the average healthcare marketplace enrollee. As a white man or woman, the split there about 46 to 54%, between 55 and 64 years old. They live in non-rural areas and make about $18,210 individually. Here's a distribution of the enrollees on both state and federal exchanges by state, something the president may want to consider in the administration administration's challenge to the law. 6 of the 9 states with the highest enrollment levels are states that he won in 2016, including the crucial Florida, Pennsylvania, and Michigan.
So at first, the Justice Department was only asking, and this would have been horrific as well, that the consumer protections that are built into the ACA, that are built into Obamacare, the Medicaid expansion, the coverage for pre-existing conditions, that women wouldn't be charged more, that seniors wouldn't be charged more, that closed the donut hole for Medicare, seniors Medicare, their prescription drug coverage, that kids could stay on their parents' health care plans until they were 26, that basic coverages would be guaranteed in any ACA plan. Okay, meaning preventative care would be covered, mental health care would be covered for the first time, pregnancy and delivery would be covered, that you couldn't deny somebody, a preventative care. Those would all be free, right? So they were saying, oh, just get rid of the consumer protections, just get rid of those, just strike that. And now they send a letter to the Fifth Circuit, who's going to decide whether or not Texas, the court in Texas that said, oh, screw it, we're just knocking down the whole ACA, is correct. And the Trump administration, Bill Barr's position is, we're not going to fight it. We're not even going to show up. We don't care. We want the whole thing nullified. We want complete nullification of the law. We don't want the law affirmed. We want the entirety of the ACA to be invalidated. You know what that does to me? You know what that does to you if you've ever had diabetes, high blood pressure, maybe you're on meds for stroke prevention, maybe you've got, maybe you've had cancer, a little bit of cancer. I had a little bit of cancer. That's a pre-existing condition. And, before 2009, in order to get health insurance, I had to stay employed at the Death Star because I couldn't even consider going out on my own because I would not have been able to afford health insurance. After Obamacare, I was able to afford health insurance and I went out on my own. And now if they take it away, filling out the application again, going through underwriting again in order to be issued health insurance, I will be rejected. Why? Because I had a little bit of cancer. That's why. And I'm paying $2,000 a month now because he stopped the risk corridor payments and the health insurance companies jacked up the cost to the premium payers because the government stopped helping the insurance companies extend the insurance to people who were more likely to use the health insurance than the young, healthy people who were less likely to use the health insurance. And so as soon as he stopped the risk corridor payments, all of a sudden, everybody saw their premiums just go woo right through the ceiling. So what used to cost maybe $500 a month is now $2,000 a month. And it's $2,000 a month with a $6,000 deductible and copays for every single place that you go unless it's preventative care. And now they want the whole damn thing nullified. There is no substitute plan. Donald Trump has never come up with a health care plan. The Republicans have no health care plan. Why do you think John McCain, remember that repeal thing that John McCain gave the thumbs down on? This is why John McCain, now we figure out, has been so top of mind for Donald Trump. Because he, all along, was thinking about getting rid of the ACA and using Bill Barr and the Attorney General of the United States to do it. So he wants to eliminate health care for 33 million people. He wants to eliminate no-charge preventative services for people on Medicare and for people in the exchange plans like me. He wants to void the expansion of Medicaid in most of the states. And every healthcare professional has weighed in on this today, saying this would throw the entire healthcare marketplace into utter and complete chaos. That it is, here's the quote, Timothy Jost, an emeritus professor at Washington and Lee University School of Law, called the Justice Department's new position crazy and legally untenable. He said, I can't believe that even the Fifth Circuit. Now, why the Fifth? The Fifth is super, super conservative. I mean, you're talking Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, okay? Those are the states in the Fifth Circuit. There's more, but that the Fifth Circuit would take that position. He said it is the nation's most conservative appeals court, but it would still be reluctant to accept the reasoning backed by the administration because it would be like invalidating the interstate highway system, causing chaos on an unimaginable scale. It is conceivable that the entire Medicare payment system would collapse. You're talking about all these senior citizens, people over 65, all are on Medicare, and you're talking about the whole payment system for Medicare just collapsing. You're talking about Medicaid just going away for the poorest people. And can you believe 88% of the people make $18,000 a year and they're relying on Obamacare for health insurance? $18,000. What can you possibly buy in the free market? Nothing. It's strictly a political decision. This is not a legal decision. So when you ask me who's next, who is he going to exact revenge on? Obviously, he's going after the blue states. Obviously, he's going after poor people. Obviously, he's going after, America. He really hates this place. He hates everything about it. He needed to find himself an AG who auditioned for the job by submitting a memo saying that he believes in a unitary executive, that he believes a president cannot be indicted, and that a president can never be guilty of obstruction of justice, and that he would be the greatest AG in the history of AGs, while Bill Barr had an interest in the Time Warner AT&T merger, which, by the way, the Trump administration was blocking. But when Bill Barr became the Attorney General, he was put in charge of the Antitrust Division of the Department of Justice, and guess what? It goes through. AT&T Time Warner merger went through. Isn't that something? And the reason why he didn't want it to go through, he was punishing CNN. That's what he thought in his head. He's a very twisted man. Now, everybody's health insurance is in jeopardy. Every single body's health insurance. Now, I mean, obviously, they want to gut the pre-existing condition part. They've always wanted to do that. But now they're looking at just getting rid of the entire law. The entire law. Because the judge in Texas, his name is Judge Reed O'Connor, he struck down the entire law. And the government was appealing that decision, and now they're not. So the Fifth Circuit is going to make a decision with the government in favor of this Texas judge's decision that you should strike the whole thing. Everybody has said today, in fact, you know who's going to argue for keeping it is our attorney. The House of Representatives has an attorney who defended the law previously before the Supreme Court. He was our former Solicitor General, Donald Verrilli. And Donald Verrilli is going to defend our health care in front of the court for the House of Representatives, for the Democratic-led House, to protect it, okay? And he said, listen, overturning this law, it's way beyond disrupting coverage for millions of people who get their health insurance on the exchange or through the Medicaid expansion. It saves senior citizens money on their Medicare prescription coverage. It provides free birth control, mammograms, cholesterol tests, children to stay on their parents' health insurance until they turn 26. He said, getting rid of this. And of course, the states that will be involved in the court proceedings are 21 Democratic states. So that's who Donald Trump is at war with. 21 Democratic states. It is a war on blue states. It is a war on blue people. It is a war on people, period. And so we have to keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, or I'm going to have no health insurance. You're going to have no health insurance if you ever had anything. I mean, they say things like, acne. is a pre-existing condition. You know that, right? Before 2009, things like acne. If you got treatment for like, I don't know, a skin disease, the heartbreak of psoriasis, right? Which now there's treatment for, that's a pre-existing condition. Everything is a pre-existing. You ever took a pill for it? You take a statin drug, Crestor, Lipitor, any of that, you got a pre-existing condition. Even if it was preventative to keep you from having high cholesterol. You know, these stroke medications, they prevent stroke. Oh my God, this is insane. The president is literally at war. Trump at war. That was what I was hashtagging last night. Trump at war. Trump at war. This is pure, unadulterated revenge. This is, you know, this is spite effing the American people. I'm serious. And then last night, all this is going on, and Chuck Schumer, you know, the release the report crowd, okay, which is everybody who has been through the ringer on this investigation for the last 22 months, for the last 2 years, that concluded that Russia meddled in our elections, that Russia was running a troll farm in St. Petersburg, like 36 indictments, 6 people around the president, all, you know, criminals. Now we're finding out maybe Felix Sater is a criminal. Maybe Michael Cohen stole money. Maybe Donald Trump received embezzled money from the Bank of Kazakhstan. You know what I mean? All this crap is going on. And we never would have known any of it had he, Trump, not fired Comey. But he did. So we got this big counterintelligence investigation going, and we got this big obstruction investigation. Inconclusive on the obstruction. Inconclusive, right? And we can't see the underlying documents and all this. Well, the House voted, you might be surprised to know, 420 to nothing. That means everyone in the House voted to release this report. Everyone. Yes, Mark Meadows and all the kooky people there. They all voted to release the report. Last night, on the floor of the Senate, Chuck Schumer thought that because every Republican was down with releasing the report, that he would ask for unanimous consent and that the Senate would vote that same way. Wrong! Mitch McConnell stood up and objected. He said, no, I don't want to release the report. Not now, maybe never. I don't want to release, and blocked it. And Lindsey Graham said he would vote to release the Mueller report only if everyone agreed to a second special counsel investigation to investigate Hillary Clinton's emails. The rest of this presidency is going to be spite effing, okay? We're all little faces on Tinder now, and he's just going to keep on swiping, and spite effing us, you and you and you and you. Everybody is going to be punished because he didn't like the way we behaved when we had questions about being interfered with, having our democracy played with, having our democracy toyed with. Unbelievable.
I ask unanimous consent. The Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of H-Con Res 24, expressing the sense of the Congress that the report of Special Counsel Mueller should be made available to the public.
Is there objection?
Reserving the right to object. As I said just a few moments ago, it's certainly good news for the country that the special counsel concluded that there is no evidence that the Trump campaign collaborated or conspired with the Russian government to influence the last presidential election.
Oh, that's impossible.
It's also good news for the country that due to the special counsel's work, we now have more insight into Russia's efforts to interfere with our democratic institutions.
So what are you going to do about it?
Now, I've consistently supported the proposition that the special counsel should be allowed to finish his work without interference. The work of the special counsel, however, is not yet complete.
Oh, it isn't?
Neither is the work of the Department of Justice. Now, my good friend, the Democratic leader, was all for allowing the special counsel to conduct his work without political interference when it might be politically advantageous to him.
What?
But apparently, my friend from New York is not for allowing the special counsel to complete his work with the Justice Department according to his best professional and legal judgment, when that might be inconvenient to my friend's own current political purposes.
You know, you are such a douche. I've never seen anybody douchier than Mitch McConnell. Truly, truly, truly. I mean, this is just amazing. His wife is the transportation secretary. Got planes crashing. We're having trouble, even getting them grounded. Something's wrong here. All right. But that said, Mitch McConnell is making some crazy argument that putting out the Mueller report would somehow help. I don't know. What was he saying? The Democrats are now for putting out the Mueller report, which would be bad for what? For who? I don't even understand this argument. Do you? I don't understand the argument. I will tell you this. The House, all the relevant committees in the House, okay? You remember, when you get the majority, you get the chairmanship of all the committees. So we got the Judiciary Committee, we got Oversight, we got Financial Services, Intelligence, Foreign Affairs, and Ways and Means. All the chairmen of all those committees wrote a letter to Bill Barr yesterday. And they said, I'm just going to read it because this is super powerful, okay? They make the best argument because we're only arguing for transparency. We're only arguing for information to be provided to Congress so Congress can make a decision about what it's supposed to be doing with regard to the findings, because we don't know what the findings are. We only know what Bill Barr says he believes they are. And we know that, Mueller didn't have the ability for some strange reason to make a charge of obstruction of justice. He said, we're not exonerating him and we're not indicting him, which leads me to believe that he did do it, but they believe that he can't be indicted because he's a sitting president. Doesn't mean he didn't do anything. Doesn't mean he's exonerated. In fact, it means the exact opposite because he said, I'm not exonerating him. So don't you think the American people, don't you think Congress needs to know, considering that when Bill Clinton was impeached, when Nixon was impeached, the top line article was for obstruction of justice. So they write, Dear Attorney General Barr, your March 24th letter concerning Special Counsel Mueller's report leaves open many questions concerning the conduct of the president and his closest advisors, as well as that of the Russian government during the 2016 presidential election. Accordingly, we formally request that you release the special counsel's full report to Congress no later than Tuesday, April 2nd, which works for me and my schedule. So thank you for that. We also ask that you begin transmitting the underlying evidence and materials to the relevant committees at that time. As you know, on March 14th, the full House of Representatives approved H-Con Res 24, which is what Mitch McConnell is blocking there. That's exactly what Chuck Schumer stood up to ask unanimous consent for, H-Con Res 24. What does that mean? House Congress Resolution 24, calling for the release of special counsel's report by a vote of 420 to nothing. That means even freaky Mo Brooks. That means even freaky Meadows, Mark Meadows, okay? It means Matt Gaetz voted for it, okay? The lunatic right, the freedom crackers voted this way. Each of our committees is currently engaged in oversight activities that go directly to the president's conduct. His attempts to interfere with federal and congressional investigations, his relationships and communications with the Russian government and other foreign powers, and or other alleged instances of misconduct. Your 4-page summary of the special counsel's review is not sufficient for Congress as a co-equal branch of government to perform this critical work. The release of the full report and the underlying evidence and documents is urgently needed by our committees to perform our duties under the Constitution. Those duties include evaluating the underlying facts, determining whether legislative or other reforms are required. You know what's really crazy? We know the Russians attacked us. We know the Russian intelligence agents' names who hacked who transmitted the stolen goods to WikiLeaks. We know that WikiLeaks got them from the Russians. We know the names of the Russian intelligence officers. We know the names of the people that worked at the troll farm, which was a separate thing having to do with social media. And have you seen anybody demand that we do anything about it? What you've seen is Donald Trump defund the counterterrorism units that work on cybersecurity. What you've seen is Donald Trump stand on a stage next to Vladimir Putin and deny that this even happened, and defending Vladimir Putin, who did it, who ordered it. Not one thing has been done to protect the sanctity of our democracy and our elections, which is the most power any American will have on any day, election day. Those duties include evaluating the underlying facts and determining whether legislative or other reforms are required, both to ensure that the Justice Department is able to carry out investigations without interference or obstruction by the president, and to protect future elections from foreign interference. I mean, the American people are just so completely understanding that we can't vote, and yet Congress and the Senate doesn't want to do one thing about it. They rather take money from the military, from the Department of Homeland Security, from cybersecurity, and build a stupid 18-foot fence in Yuma, Arizona. They list what they have to do. They say, first, Congress must be permitted to make an independent assessment of the evidence regarding obstruction of justice. The determinations you've reached regarding obstruction and the manner in which you chose to characterize the special counsel's investigation only raise further questions, particularly in light of the special counsel's decision to refrain from making, quote, and this is the middle of, Mueller's sentence, so we don't know what came before or after it, a traditional prosecutorial judgment. We also cannot evaluate your determination that, and this is also a partial sentence, the report identifies no actions, end quote, that meet the elements of obstruction in the absence of the report, in the absence of evidence and other materials. Second, we have no reason to question that Special Counsel Mueller made a well-considered prosecutorial judgment in two specific and narrow areas: whether the Trump campaign conspired to join Russia's online disinformation and hacking and dissemination efforts. But it is vital for national security purposes that Congress be able to evaluate the full body of facts and evidence collected and evaluated by the special counsel, including all the information gathered of a counterintelligence nature. Now, I'm just going to stop here for a brief moment. There are all these threads hanging out there. There's all this stuff hanging out there, okay? One of the things that was out there was, they were saying that they needed to know something about the hacking because it went to the very heart of the investigation, what we're investigating. And we don't know what they were talking about. Maria Butina, she pled guilty. We don't know how far did that go. Did the money go to the NRA? I mean, there's all these threads hanging out there. Who's the mystery bank? What was that about? The provision of the report in complete and unredacted form, and the underlying evidence and materials would be fully consistent with the Justice Department's practice and precedent with Congress, which the department reinforced in recent years. With respect to the Hillary Clinton email investigation, and here's what you guys need to know and remember, because all these nutbags, like Sean Hannity was on his show last night demanding that we reopen the Hillary. Trump wants to reopen the Hillary. Lindsey Graham wants to reopen the Hillary. He will only vote to release Mueller if we agree to a second special counsel to investigate Hillary, right? So this is what Congress wants you to understand. With respect to the Hillary Clinton email investigation, the Department of Justice and the FBI released more than 880,000 pages of documents, publicly identified career officials involved in the case, produced volumes of internal deliberative materials, meaning what was informing their decision about whether to prosecute her or not prosecute her, including sensitive, investigatory, and classified materials. 880,000 pages. In response to congressional requests and subpoenas regarding allegations of bias in the Russian investigation, the department produced to congressional committees thousands of pages of highly sensitive law enforcement and classified investigatory and deliberative records relating to that investigation, which remained open and ongoing at the time. Moreover, the department produced to congressional committees in full and then took the unprecedented step of releasing to the public multiple documents related to the surveillance of a United States person under Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act requests. So they made public the FISA warrant on Carter Page, which, by the way, under the previous Justice Department, before the 6 weeks of Bill Barr changing everything from the ACA to the rules of, Congress gets to do oversight, to the rules that Congress has the power of the purse. Before Bill Barr, the Justice Department was releasing the FISA application and had renewed it 3 separate times during the Trump administration. And now they're sitting on the TV and trying to pretend that we don't know what happened with that FISA application, that we don't know why the FISA application to surveil Carter Page was issued and that it wasn't renewed 3 separate times. I mean, this is all going to get so bizarre.
The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
Well, what I want to do is see if he'll appoint a special counsel. I fully realize that the oversight role of the committee is legitimate, but we're Republicans, they're Democrats. I'd like to find somebody like a Mr. Mueller that could look into what happened with the FISA warrant, what happened with the counterintelligence investigation. Am I right to be concerned? Seems pretty bad on its face, but somebody like a Mr. Mueller to look at that so that if nobody else, those who believe that the FBI and the Department of Justice were playing politics, that they wanted Clinton to win and Trump to lose, that somebody can satisfy them, that was looked at. There's some people are never going to accept the Mueller report, what I say, or what Mr. Barr does. But by any reasonable standard, Mr. Mueller thoroughly investigated the Trump campaign. You cannot say that about the other side of the story.
What other side?
And what I hope Mr. Barr will do is understand, for the country's sake, appoint somebody outside the current system to look into these allegations, somebody we all trust, and let them do what Mr. Mueller did.
He's insane. 880,000 pages on the Hillary email investigation have been released and provided to Congress. We got the information on the FISA warrants. What is there to investigate? There is nothing. There is absolutely nothing. They need a foil. That's all it is. They need a foil. And they don't have one. This is really sick and this is really twisted. They don't want to release the report. You got Mitch McConnell blocking the release of the report. The former Attorney General actually said that Mueller did what Mueller did so that Congress would take it up. The obstruction of justice portion would be taken up by Congress. And that this is just the beginning of it.
I think Bob was faced with just a couple of possibilities. Given the fact that he could not indict, he had the possibility of declining prosecution, and he thought there was too much evidence, I think, there to decline. If you look at the letter talks about he's not exonerating anybody, so he's not in a position to decline the case. The only other option that he had was to put this case in as good a form as it could with the expectation that somebody would do something with it. And if past precedent is any guide, that would be the Attorney General or somebody in the Justice Department shipping out with that which he put together to Congress for consideration.
Send it to Congress for consideration, because obviously there's no conclusion here. And, not if. We were and are being attacked by Russia. I think either in D.C. or at SDNY, there's a live case with a Russian person who, she's a female, who meddled in the 2018 election as well as the 2016 election. It's a live case, which means everything that every intelligence person went up to Capitol Hill to testify to, Clint Watts and others, Brennan and what's his name, Hayden, and all these guys, they all said we're still under attack. They're still doing it. Not one thing has been done. Not one thing has been done by this Republican, mess over here to protect you. We're just in the middle of all this.
The obstruction questions, I certainly would agree with your characterization of my views on collusion, but with regard to obstruction, I think we're really at the beginning, maybe the middle of this whole process. Findings have been made. We need to see what those were. We need to see exactly what was the nature of the interaction between Bob Mueller and Bill Barr. And then we also need to understand how was it that Bill Barr reached these conclusions? What were the things that he went through? What laws did he apply? What rules did he apply? How did he interpret the appropriate rules and statutes? How did he apply the facts? This is just, a 4-page memo that makes some really consequential determinations. And it seems to me that the American people and Congress are entitled to hear substantially more than simply this document.
Like I said, there's all these loose threads out there, okay? We've heard nothing about the Trump Tower meeting either way, nothing at all. We've heard nothing about Trump dictating a letter to Hope Hicks on Air Force One that was false about the Trump Tower meeting, saying that the Russians came to talk about adoptions. They came to talk about sanctions. They came to talk about the Magnitsky Act being their concern, and in exchange for lifting sanctions, they would then provide dirt on Hillary Clinton, which they had hacked. The president then in July stands up on a stage and says, Russia, if you're listening, and then they hack Hillary Clinton's personal emails. There's nothing. We've heard nothing about it. There's been no mention in any of these speaking indictments at all about how Mueller handled those facts. Those things did happen. Junior did write an email to Rob Goldstone, we've all seen it, saying, hey, the Russian government supports my dad and they want to give us dirt on Hillary Clinton. Well, if it's what you say it is, I love it. But there's no mention about the Trump Tower meeting. There's no mention about Junior's emails. There's no mention about the Trump letter dictated on Air Force One that was a cover-up and part of a lie. There's no mention in any of the Mueller reports about Manafort handing polling data to Konstantin Kilimnik in a cigar bar in New York. All we got was a quote from Andrew Weissman, one of the lead prosecutors on the Mueller team, that he said in court that the meeting that Manafort had with Konstantin Kilimnik at the New York Cigar Club in August of 2016 went, quote, very much to the heart of what the special counsel's office is investigating. We heard nothing about the polling data. We know Konstantin Kilimnik's been indicted, but he's over in Russia and won't come back here because if he does, he'll be arrested. This is ridiculous. You cannot just, give me 4 pages of what you think Mueller is driving at and then have everybody in America just repeat it over and over again. Oh, well, he said there was no collusion. Collusion is not a crime. Collusion is a behavior. The crime would have been conspiracy. And if Mueller believes you can't indict a president on anything, then let's see what he came up with regard to how did he deal with the fact that Trump stood on a stage and said, Russia, if you're listening, I hope you can find. How did he deal with the Trump Tower meeting? How did he deal with Junior's emails? How did he deal with Roger Stone? Well, we know that because Roger Stone will go on trial in D.C. in November. How did he deal with these things? How did he treat the polling data? We know Konstantin Kilimnik's been indicted, but where is it in the report? Where did it fit in? I want the whole narrative. We've been following all of these crazy activities of Donald Trump in person, at rallies and all this. He's having another rally in Michigan where he's going to declare himself innocent of everything. And that's not what this says. But this is crazy. There's all these unanswered questions, all these threads, all these strands, all these loose edges. It just makes no sense. It makes about as much sense as the Battle of Tora Bora in Afghanistan, where Bush decided he would rope off all three sides of a square. Not all four sides, just three sides, and leave the side that led to Pakistan open so Osama bin Laden could leave. These people make some very curious decisions, don't they? John, where are you?
Phoenix. Hey, Randy.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. How are you?
Hey, it occurs to me, honestly, that well, you remember, election night, the blue wave didn't look so good, right? But over time, when things started to kind of come together, it was a lot bigger than we expected, right?
Right.
So I kind of view this the same way, right? Because here's what we don't know, right? What we do know, actually, is that phrase that says that the the investigation did not establish coordination between the campaign and the Russian government.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That started with a bracket around a capital T.
Exactly.
Right?
We don't even know.
That tells us, right?
We don't even.
Something else comes before that, right?
Right.
And so what could that thing be? It could be, hey, reality, we see it too. There's a crap ton of connections between the campaign and Russians. And there's Russians doing some dastardly shit. But we can't actually find the piece of evidence that makes the two coordinate. Right? So that could be what the report actually says. And it's not actually that good for Trump.
Check this out, John. The report could actually say obstruction worked. They obstructed so much. They lied so much. Manafort was taking information back to Donald Trump so much that he knew the questions we were going to ask and the answers that Manafort gave so he could be in sync with them. That could be, why he couldn't, do anything on obstruction. We don't know. We don't know if that's half a sentence. We don't know if that's a third of a sentence. We don't know if that's the end of a paragraph, the beginning of a paragraph. We have no idea what that is. I will say that, Barr says that Mueller explored a number of actions by the president that potentially raised obstruction of justice concerns, and he said most have been the subject of public reporting. So doesn't that mean that there were private things that Trump did that we don't know about? Well, what were those things? There's so much that we don't know that it just blows your mind. Eddie in San Jose.
Hey, Randy.
Eddie.
Hey, speaking of a crap ton of connections, yeah, there's still an awful lot of loose threads in this giant shitty quilt. And, like you were talking about earlier, I thought the timing of this lawsuit against Felix Sater by BTA Bank's lawyers in Kazakhstan, I thought it was pretty curious timing that it does a really good job throwing this whole Sater testimony schedule into chaos right at a moment when Team Trump is waging this media war against all its critics. And one of the things I noticed in a lot of these articles, just in your homework and a couple other places, not many of them did much coverage of the fact that some of that missing money that BTA claims was looted
went to Trump Soho.
Went to 3 condominiums at Trump Soho.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't just those those condos, this guy who was the former mayor of Almaty, Krapanov, whose name I'd love to say, he actually also looted a ton and allegedly pumped it into a giant shopping mall out in Ohio.
In Ohio, yeah.
In Ohio. Yeah, that shopping mall, eventually Felix Sater and his business partner, they sold their personal interest in that shopping mall to a company run by Neil Bush, a company that Neil Bush is listed on as one of the board of directors, and it's real curious timing to me, because that deal was done in 2013. I haven't connected all these dots yet. I was just there's only a couple things that these cases have in common, and one of the things that they have in common is Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels' payment, right? Felix Sater and Michael Cohen, Trump Moscow project, emails. Obviously, if we could get Putin to sign off on this, our boy gets elected. All those emails, right? And what's interesting is BTA Bank actually hires Michael Cohen, actually hires Felix Sater to do the investigation into where the money went. And the law firm that seems to have brokered those deals for BTA is David Boy's law firm, who also was a lawyer in Bush v. Gore, and also is the law firm that is now, they called the federal prosecutors in New York against Michael Avenatti, also connected to Stormy Daniels, Michael Cohen, and Felix Sater. Yeah, it's this weird intersection. It's very weird. It's very. Yeah. I don't know what to make of it. It's just pieces of a puzzle again. Especially since most of the activity went on in 2013. Obviously, it's not directly related to the Trump campaign, but it's still this background of how come they don't want Felix Sater to show up in front of people and answer questions. It is weird. Yeah, bizarre to me. It's so bizarre. I mean, this is, like I said, we're all just on Tinder now, and Donald Trump is swiping, and he's, spite effing anybody that he doesn't like. Anyone with a link to a lot of these deals he's done in the past, that's going to be a whole lot of people. Those cases are still alive. You understand? Yeah, they are. Yeah, absolutely. Right. So you have, the thing about SDNY, how everybody says, oh, that's Trump's, biggest thorn in his side. Yeah, well, he's got his appointee in there now, Jeffrey Berman, right?
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
So yesterday, if you read Donald Trump's tweets, you'd think, oh, this report by Mueller clears Trump of any wrongdoing. And that is not what the Barr letter, we don't have the Mueller report, but the Barr letter even says. With respect to obstruction of justice, Mueller basically couldn't decide. He said he laid out the evidence on both sides. Now, Barr then takes it on himself and inserts himself into the process and says, oh, I'll decide. Now, it's not at all clear that Mueller wanted that result. Indeed, if Mueller thought that the Attorney General should decide this matter, I suspect that would be in the report and be one of the very first things Barr would have quoted, since that letter of 4 pages was really an advocacy document yesterday. But we saw nothing like that. So I think Barr put himself in this process. I have no indication whatsoever that Mueller wanted that result. And the result is a really scary one. The idea that you can have a 22-month independent investigation and in a matter of 48 hours have that just cut short with an attorney general who says, oh, I don't see anything there.
Yeah, it is weird. I have to tell you, it is the strangest thing in the world because, the Manafort polling data going to Konstantin Kilimnik results in an indictment of Konstantin Kilimnik, and we don't have word one about what Andrew Weissman told us was at the very heart of what Mueller was investigating. Not word one. We have nothing about the Trump Tower meeting. Not any word about it. Not any word about the faked letter about nothing. We have nothing. We have Bill Barr, who believes in a unitary executive yet again. He believed in that with the Bush family. He believes in that now with Trump, that the law is something that doesn't apply to the president of the United States, and that he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it, is now our attorney general, who's advocating that we all lose our health insurance, including Medicare. What? as punishment. And that Trump has for himself the power of the purse. And he can take money out of the U.S. military, out of construction for the... You know what people are doing? You know what they're doing at the Pentagon? They're trying to spend the money. They're trying to allocate the money before Trump comes in and steals it. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get the contracts done to fix the housing, to build the schools, to fix the bases that need fixing, to clean the contaminated water at Camp Lejeune. They're trying to get the contracts done before Trump comes and steals the money. Now, he's already taken $1 billion and started building this stupid fence in Yuma and El Paso. El Paso does not want this thing. And we know that because Bet is their Congress member. Andrew and Boynton.
Randy.
Andrew.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
You're going to love me today, Randy.
Okay.
I got a good theory. So, first of all, Donald Trump is going to die in jail.
Yes.
Let's just say it, right?
Right.
So, the hard part's over. The second part, all right. So, Mueller did this report for 2 years. We know that he's a man of character. I'm suspecting he knew that this report would not come out as soon as he gave it to Bill Barr. I'm suspecting he knew that, right?
Well, they're friends.
Well, yeah, that's true.
They know each other very, very well, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they do, and they seem to
listen to
admire
this.
each other. And this was one of the problems that Trump had after he nominated Barr. Is he said, "Oh, I didn't know he was friends with Mueller," and he trashed, that too. But
well, let me get to the good part.
Yeah.
So now Trump is on the warpath.
Yes.
He's revenge, revenge. He's throwing all his toys out of the stroller. Him and his cohorts are rushing to break as many laws as possible, blacklisting people.
Yep.
Suspicious lawsuits popping up where Donald Trump is an unindicted co-conspirator in that lawsuit, right?
Right.
And everyone's just
that's not a lawsuit. That's not a lawsuit. That's a case. That's a criminal case. Donald Trump is an unindicted co-conspirator in the Michael Cohen federal case.
Even better.
Donald Trump,
Even better.
Donald Trump, don't forget, is individual one in the Michael Cohen indictment. And Michael Cohen says that he was directed by individual one to pay off Stormy Daniels, to pay off Avenatti, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, well, and if he wasn't president, he'd be indicted. But anyway, the glimmer of hope is Mueller probably knew this is what would happen, right? So, and because he's not just going to disappear, I theorize that Mueller knew the delay that it would take for his report to come to light would give Trump and his friends enough time to give them just enough rope to hang themselves with.
Bill Barr?
Because all of America's sitting back. No, Mueller. Mueller knew that would happen, and he knew he would be retaliatory, right? And so when it gets icky and ugly and dangerous, guess who's going to show up with the real report? And it'll just be like, all right, now it's come to light. And the report says, okay, this did happen. And not only did that happen, but afterwards, this happened. And then this, and this, and this. And it's going to be way too much to just be like, oh, well, there was no there, because not only did we see obstruction, but we saw like retaliation, all the other crap coming down the line. So that's how I'm unpacking it. That keeps me like grounded at this moment, where otherwise I'd just be flailing.
Here's what has to happen. Obviously, subpoenas have to be issued. The House will do that. All right. And the first subpoena has to go to Bill Barr. And then the second subpoena has to go to Robert Mueller. All right. And those two men have to testify just like Comey had to testify. Okay. That is what is going to happen, because this was a counterintelligence investigation that concluded that the Russians, and they are named Russian intelligence officers, the GRU, Vladimir Putin, ordered the hacking of the DNC. Now, there's also, when we get Mueller's report, you just might see a little discussion of how they also hacked the Republicans. And what could they possibly have on the Republicans?
Dun, dun, dun.
Exactly. And so it might be very illuminating to know that the Republicans were also hacked and what the Russians have on, let's say, the Lindsey Grahams of the world.
Which might help us clean house.
It's not even politically speaking. I'm just saying that there is something really bizarre going on, and we haven't really gotten an answer
but I know that, and guess
what it is,
all America knows
and who it affected,
all America knows that.
And who it affected, and why people are behaving
but Randy,
in this manner.
America switched on, right? We're all sitting back and we're watching and we're taking notes.
Oh, I know.
And we're saying, like nobody is being fooled. We're all sitting back and taking notes, and we're all watching Trump as he's emboldened in this moment do increasingly terrible things, and then the Mueller report will come to light one way or another. And then there'll be nothing to argue about.
Yeah.
That'll be that.
Well, that'd be very illuminating. I would enjoy very much reading that. Now, remember, I realize that we have an independent counsel statute and a special prosecutor, and they're different things. And one reports to Congress and the other one reports to the executive, which is stupid. But, Neil Katyal, who wrote the independent counsel statute, said don't take Bill Barr's word for it, okay? This is not what it is. That it was supposed to be. The reason why it's so vague is because it is supposed to be taken up by Congress.
If the Department of Justice can't indict a sitting president, and they say, we don't know if he committed the crime of obstruction of justice or not, there's evidence both for and against, what is the Attorney General's role in making the determination one way or the other? Had he found the other way, then what does that even amount to constitutionally?
Right.
Exactly. It's a great question. I think there's basically two ambiguities, and we don't know because we don't have the Mueller report to decide between them. One is this question about whether or not a sitting president could be indicted influenced Mueller's thinking. The Barr letter said it didn't influence him, but for Mueller, you could see him saying, look, obstruction of justice is a crime. I can't indict a president of a crime under these OLC opinions. Therefore, I'm leaving it up to Congress, not the Attorney General. Is that in the Mueller report? We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know what Mueller wanted. That's the thing. We don't know. Was Mueller leaving it to Congress, or was Mueller saying, here, Bill, you make the call. You and Rod. Really? Andy in Minneapolis.
Hi, Randy. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Snow's melting and the sun's out. So
good.
We're doing well. Hey, I'll tell you what worries me more about Trump is, him. They're going to get rid of Obamacare. And I just don't. Why would you do that? When you're looking at a 2020 election. Is he not afraid of that, or do they know something that we don't know?
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? And that we've done nothing in the counterintelligence arena to protect ourselves from anybody messing around with us, Obviously, Donald Trump has no legislative agenda. We haven't seen anything from him except this horrible budget that cuts money from Medicare, that cuts money from Social Security disability, that cuts money from food stamps, so that he could give yet another corporate tax cut to the wealthiest Americans who he feels will be his best donors in 2020, and that they will be able to buy the election for him somehow. There is no legislative agenda. He's never put together a comprehensive immigration plan. He's never put together a health care plan. He's never put together an infrastructure plan. He's done nothing except bitch and moan and complain and whine the whole time and give all of our money to the very wealthy Americans. And now he's threatening that we'll do another round of this wealth transfer before 2020. And so he thinks that voters won't matter, that your vote won't count anyway. So somebody somewhere is going to be able to fix it for him. Obviously, that's what he's thinking. And this idea that a president can never be indicted for any damn thing at any time because of some stupid OLC opinion is very bizarre. But
it's insane.
It's insane. It makes no sense. It doesn't comport with democracy. It doesn't comport with the rule of law. It doesn't comport with what we tell each other every day. No man is above the law. This says, oh, yeah, there is a man that's above the law. He's an autocrat. He's a dictator. He's a demagogue. He could do whatever he wants to do. He could kill somebody on Fifth Avenue. And there are people of the Republican persuasion who believe that they can't indict him, no matter what he does.
Yeah.
Right?
You've done it. You're doing
now,
it. You're doing a great
constitutionally speaking, if you believe that, if you're one of those people that believes that that's the case, then the remedy is impeachment. And that would mean that the House of Representatives was entitled to all the underlying evidence, to all the documents, to all the unredacted, opinions, the conclusions, how they got there, the declinations, why they declined to prosecute Junior or Kushner right? We're owed that. If they believe you can't indict a president, then obviously the remedy in the Constitution that they believe in is impeachment. That's how you remove a president in their minds. And therefore you need Congress to get involved. Okay, let me just remind you, we're going to be off tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday to install all this equipment. Please, this is the end of the month. Plea to you to support the show. Engineers have to be paid. Lighting guys have to be paid. Equipment is ordered, and it's here. Oh, my God. Please do support the show. Buy a stinking podcast.